Hello and welcome to KRSE Beyond the Ordinary Webcast Radio, and on this most anticipated hour right here with your hosts Nancy and Elena.
Why most anticipated? Because we have the way past half-past human. Cliff, hi.
Hello.
All right. Whew. I don't even know where to start with you. Oh, yes, I do know. I want to tell people, forget about, the links that we put up, trying to cull from so much going on to give you information. Just go to halfpasthuman.com and get Cliff's reports. They are fantastic. So do that and be informed and test your capacity.
Well, it's kind of like a crossword puzzle, too, because you can get the report and then you can sit around and match it to stuff as it occurs.
Yes. Ooh, and we have some things already beginning. Aren't there some of the minions already dying?
Yeah, there's that, and we were fairly accurate, I think, on the language turning business for this past weekend. And we actually caught a great deal of good information with the spiders as we went through that period, because we had our data gathering going just for that purpose, to see if we could actually capture a turn, because we'd never had an opportunity before to actually be running data gathering when it occurred. So we were able to watch the mass move and so on. Unlike a tipping point, I mean, in the September 11 attack, you wake up in the morning and then everything changed. 4 hours later, the whole world was different. Whereas, and that was a tipping point, and we all just kind of fell into it. The turn here, though, over this past weekend was a little bit more gradual. So we started off on Saturday with the announcement of the swine flu emergency and all the other stuff, and it slowly starts shifting the language such that by the time we reach our point early on Monday morning on the 26th, the mass had been moved. And the language had, in fact, officially from our viewpoint, shifted over into building tension language. So it was very instructive to actually watch it occur. We didn't know if it would be an event, a series of events, how it all would work out, because turns are a little bit different. They appear to be kind of like a stampede or a herd. It's a big thing, and you got to move it. And you start moving them one individual at a time, and that individual bumps into other individuals, and then pretty soon the whole herd starts moving in the direction you want it to go. And that's sort of what happened with all the language. So yesterday morning around the time of the quote peak of our turn into the language, we had a number of interesting effects occur, one of which was totally unexpected. That was the sudden precipitous drop in Dow, almost to the minute as to when we'd called it. But some of the other things that we had sort of anticipated were things that blended the economic and warfare and the economic in Israel, such as the Iranian oil trading opening up on the morning of the 26th, early our time. And that was another nail in the coffin of the dollar. The powers that be reacted very fiercely later on by driving the dollar up, and that's really what tanked the market at 11-something. So it's all interconnected, and now we're watching it occur. It's extremely interesting from a technical viewpoint and linguistically, and I won't bore you with all the mathematics and the details, but it was quite exciting. It was sort of like for an astronomer being able to watch an eclipse occur with, multiple telescopes going on.
That is a good analogy, yes.
Yeah, so we got all whipped up. Igor's running around with pie all over his face because he just can't contain himself.
On this sort of mass movement that you saw, is that in some way connected with accelerating the revolution data?
They're all, everything, of course, is interconnected. You can't go anywhere in the universe that you're not connected with every other part of it.
Right.
So that's perfectly true. But there is a more or less direct line from what happens starting yesterday morning through the rest of this year and the summer of next year, where the revolution is in a very active state, emerging out of what we're calling at this point a frothy chaos. So there is indeed in our viewpoint, a whole series of precursors, or sort of like future echoes, if you will, little blips that will later on mature into very large bubbles of concern. And they are occurring over this period of time. So we're expecting, for instance, in November, maybe as late as the 11th, but probably as early as the 6th or 7th, to be able to see a series of international moves that will be a setup for conditions that will exist in late June, early July, and we should be able to derive some intelligence from our guesses about what those events of this November, how they will mature in that period of time. So in other words, if we get, right today I heard just a little bit ago that they're lobbing missiles at each other around Lebanon. And so if this continues and we see it happen again in early November, then we can say, okay, for sure, in our way of thinking, we'll have a great deal of military activity relative to Israel around May and June to set us up for that July period of next year. And it doesn't mean that the Israeli mistake is off for this year. It just means that there will be an extra set of military activities then, if we get into that situation. On the other hand, we're also expecting North Korea to pop up in November as an issue. And then again, to continue all the way through sort of like at a slow boil until about March or so, and then it'll just drop off and won't be a problem thereafter. So there are certain things we're looking for, and we could be wrong. We were just interpreting certain signs that, certain data elements that the military stuff from the outlying areas, the outliers we call them, would be North Korea. We could be wrong, and all the military activity of early November might be focused on Israel, but I think not. So we're sort of anticipating a bifurcation, if you will, of some of the problem sets in early November. Make sense?
It does, and but at the same time, it's mind-boggling how you can. I think you put it so eloquently when you said something in the data catches the eye, because you are connecting so many lines that cross and crisscross all over the place. I really don't know how you do it.
Well, I actually had to devise software. It was really tricky, actually. It took me a number of months to devise a software group, a couple of executable programs in Prolog that would be able to unravel some of the more complex cross-links. And when I write about the cross-links in the reports, I might say that, well, this area of the Terra entity is cross-linked over to the global POP and over to the populous US of A entities where they terminate in this area. And that's probably 100% true in the main, but the cross-links have to be looked at really as knots of hair, because when they terminate, they might terminate in thousands of different words in one area. So it gets very complex. And what I actually do is I have assigned intensity values and hue values within the pixel groups for certain emotional shifts, and that's really what catches my eye. And unfortunately, my eyes are either failing me or there's just too many of these things, because it's just the whole model space is just getting really hot with all the increased hue and intensity. So we're shading from the more somber reds over to the vibrant pinks, which really is not a good sign, because it's a sign of increasing intensity.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is so much. It is just for us culling some things to bring to our listeners' attention is, where do you select? I mean, it has just, in this last year, become really complex.
Yes.
And that's only at our level, so shoot.
Oh, yeah, imagine the poor fellows that work for the powers that be that are trying to keep this all sorted because they're trying to control it. See, I'm not trying to control anything, so I don't have any anxiety with it. I just want to report it. But these guys are actually trying to, got to, put out that fire over there, or go stoke this one over here, and it's going to get real busy for them, yeah. Some of the issues for us are much more straightforward. We knew it would be financial. We knew there'd be a big hit, but that it wouldn't necessarily be a giant thing at the point of immediacy, although it truly was giant in one sense, because on Sunday, very peculiar day to do it, the largest commercial real estate lender, 15% owned by GMAC, went bankrupt, and this has huge repercussions for an already staggeringly overbuilt commercial real estate sector. So it really was the last nail in the coffin for the American economy in terms of sealing the lid, because, see, here's what it really means. While we were out building all the houses and having the huge housing boom, it was a minor little thing from 2000 onward to, let's just say, 2007 at its peak, so 7 years. But the commercial real estate boom has been going on since 1989.